Thank you, Ms. Tenney. I'll now recognize Chairman Steil for the purpose of questioning our witnesses.
Thank you, Chair Lee, for hosting today's hearing. Thank you to our witnesses for being here. America's decentralized election system is essential for our democracy. State, county, municipal offices who administer elections are best positioned to understand the needs of voters in their communities and are vested in the integrity of our election process and outcomes. As chairman, I'm committed to upholding our federalist approach by equipping states with the tools they need to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. This means ensuring all eligible Americans who want to participate have the opportunity to cast a ballot and have confidence those ballots will be counted according to law. But it also means ensuring non-citizens are not able to cast ballots, which dilutes American citizens' votes. When voters are more confident their ballot will count and not be canceled out by someone else's ballots, they're more likely to participate. We see the data time and time again on that. Today we're focusing on the American Confidence in Elections Act's provisions that ensure all eligible Americans are able to participate, in particular while preventing foreign interference. While non-citizens are already prohibited from voting in federal elections, some states and territories allow non-citizens to vote outside of federal elections. For example, in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia now allows non-citizens to vote, and this would include embassy staff of countries like Russia and China after living in the country for just 30 days. I think this is a serious vulnerability to potentially nefarious foreign interference in our election and raises some pretty serious questions. The ACE Act will provide states with the necessary tools to prevent non-citizens from voting. We must equip states with tools to ensure elections are safe and secure while ensuring access for all eligible American voters. It should be common sense that only Americans should be able to vote in American elections. I appreciate our witnesses being here. I want to do two sets of questions if I can. If I can start with you, Ms. Dixon. Appreciate you being here. Rough math, do you know how many people vote in a Washington, D.C. election in a presidential year?
I actually don't know.
Total, rough math, we'll go 300,000. There's 8 city council wards in the District of Columbia, so if you break that down, it's roughly 40,000 votes per ward in D.C. Do you know how many non-citizens would be eligible to, or are eligible to vote in the District of Columbia following their change of law?
I would imagine it's a substantial number.
It's 50,000. That's actually in your testimony. 50,000 non-citizens in Washington, D.C. would be eligible to vote, which would clearly be enough if they're concentrated in any given ward, which would be rational to think, knowing that the embassies are located in a tight geographic area. Do you know how they'd be prevented from voting? That they'd be allowed to vote in the municipal election, but then being prevented from voting in the presidential election?
We just have to trust that they're going to do that through proper procedures, but it creates a lot of administrative hassles for the election officials.
Does that increase confidence, do you think, in American citizens who are voting in the federal elections?
Probably not.
Let me shift gears slightly to you, if I can, Mr. Burns. And appreciate you being here and the work that you do on election integrity. In December 2021, the New York City Council passed a measure that will allow more than 800,000 non-citizens to vote in New York City local elections, similar to what Washington, D.C. passed. Except in New York, it was challenged and struck down by the state Supreme Court judge, citing that the law violates the New York Constitution, and now that case is currently on appeal. Do you support the state Supreme Court's decision?
I think I think the trial judge, the Supreme Court judge, made the correct decision on the non-citizen voting law.
If you could do it concisely, how would you note that it violates the New York State Constitution?
It's pretty clear to me, and I think it was pretty clear to the judge and most other folks who looked at this, that the state constitution is pretty specific that only citizens are entitled to vote, even in municipal elections, which of course this law applies to.
And let's just run the hypothetical that case doesn't come down in the way that you and I would like, and it plays out that non-citizens are going to vote in New York City municipal elections. Is there a concern citizens living in the 5 boroughs could vote in federal elections? Non-citizens, could vote in the five boroughs that could vote in federal elections? And how would you prevent them from voting in federal elections? Meaning, they're going to be on the roll. They could vote in municipal elections if this court case got flipped back and the law was allowed to move forward. How would you prevent them from then voting in federal elections?
I think it would certainly be very difficult, and I wouldn't envy the men and women at the New York City Board of Elections or any of the borough boards of elections. I suppose they would have to have two different sets of lists, one that would be simply for municipal elections, one that would be for state and federal elections. It certainly wouldn't be easy to do. I do believe that, I am confident that the Second Department, our intermediate appellate court, will find that the law is.
Do you appreciate that? Do you believe that non-citizen voting dilutes the votes of U.S. citizens?
Undoubtedly, no question about it.
I appreciate you being here, appreciate your testimony. Madam Chair, I yield back.